Here's a story about a unique time in motorsport history, a special car, and a Repco partnership that has been brought back to life.
Yeah, well, NASCAR in Australia was probably born in 1962 when Bob and my father Bill headed to America and went to Charlotte and witnessed their first race. And Bob had a dream then to build the track, and 20 years later he started it. We had our first NASCAR event here in February 28, 1988, and that sort of born NASCAR in Australia's built into Australian Rand Series all the way up until 2000. So we had 12 wonderful years of really good hard racing out here.
NASCAR and stock car style racing was wildly popular in its heyday of the 80s and 90s in Australia. Sadly, it now only lives in our memories. But as part of Repco's 100th anniversary celebrations, we've brought a special machine back to its famous racing colours.
Aaron Noonan got in touch with me because he knew that I'd been involved, and we actually recently did a resto on the Russell Ingall Bathurst NASCAR. So it was a case of coming together and finding out what the best scheme was to represent Repco for their anniversary. I was the original person that did it. It was a one-off livery for Repco for the 2000 Australian Formula One Grand Prix. Yeah, unfortunately I'm about 3 or 4 computers down the track from over 22 years ago. So it was a case of, I still had the numbers and things like that. We had to recreate a couple of the logos, just a case of putting it all together. The car came to us black with sign writing on it, so we didn't have to wrap the whole car. You forget how bright fluoro is, and a lot of the times we did it at the dome, so it stood out underneath the lights. Yeah, it certainly stands out. I'm sure Kim's going to be shocked when he sees it again.
And it would only be right to reunite Kim Jane with his Repco Chevrolet Monte Carlo at Australia's home of super speedway racing, the Calder Park Thunderdome.
So my first memories of this car was in 1995-96 when I was racing a black Southern Motors Pontiac trying to chase this car for the championship. Max Dumsney was driving that car and I was in my black Pontiac. At the end of that year, they sort of dismantled it a bit. John put the car up for sale, so I managed to talk Bob into buying it, and then we managed to talk John into running it for me. So after that, I think we won the next 15 races out here in a row and the next 3 championships. So it's a wonderful car. It's got a lot of great history. The Repco sponsorship started back in the 90s with a guy called David Tennant, who was the marketing manager of Repco at the time. And Repco started as a little small sponsor when it was the Bob Jane Team Arts car. We had an opportunity to sell the whole sponsorship to Repco in the last year. David Tennant and the team came up with the design, and John Sidney as well. And that's, to see it today, back at that, how it looked at that last time that we raced, it's just it's a wonderful feeling jumping in the car and putting it out here today. Just sort of makes me want to open up and do a few laps, but I don't think Zach, the current owner, will probably be really happy with that.
Over 2 decades on, stock cars continue to compete in Australia in local and state level racing. Many have tales that have remained undisclosed. But when New South Welshman Zach O'Hara bought Jane's old championship winning Monte Carlo, he knew exactly how much history sat inside its cabin.
So when I first saw the car at Rusty French's workshop, instantly saw the blue colour, and I knew it was the Jane car from watching many old videos and looking at pictures. I knew the car had went to Japan and won a lot of NASCAR championships here, so the history really appealed to me, drove me to buy the car. I found the money and made it happen. It's pretty cool that Repco now have approached us and we've done this great livery to celebrate 100 years.
It was a special time. This is a special car. And now, the memories of the NASCAR that took the last ever win in Australia is preserved in its rightful colours for all motorsport fans to enjoy.